The international break is finally over and the Champions League is back again. And with that being said, these are my predictions for the third match day in the Champions League phase. In today's video, I'm going to be predicting the scorelines for every single game in the third match day. And obviously, if you guys agree with my predictions, remember to leave a comment down below. But if you disagree with my predictions and you think there might be a few upsets here and there, again, remember to leave your predictions in the comments down below. To be honest, I think there will be a few crazy games this week. I think there's going to be a few upsets here and there. The Champions League so far has been looking a little bit average, and I think we are due a few crazy upsets. So this week, I think there's going to be some crazy games and some crazy scorelines as well. So without further ado, let's get right into these predictions. The first game we got is AC Milan against Club Rouge. To a lot of people's surprise, so far in this Champions League, AC Milan have been one of the worst teams so far. They have already played 2 games and they still have 0 wins, and they have a goal difference of -3. Obviously, Milan have versed a few good teams. They versed Liverpool in the first match day, and they also versed Bayer Leverkusen in the second match day, which are 2 of some of the best teams in the world. But in this game against Club Rouge, I do think AC Milan will finally get their first win under the belt. And in this game, with AC Milan playing at home, I do think Milan will win this game 3-1. The next game we got is AS Monaco against Red Star Belgrade. Monaco, in my opinion, have been one of the most informed teams this season. We see them in the Ligue 1, where they currently sit in first place above PSG. And even in the Champions League, they have been very good, where in the first match day, they ended up beating Barcelona. And in the second match day, in a difficult match against Dinamo Zagreb, they did end up coming away with a draw. Red Star Belgrade, on the other hand, have been very poor this Champions League. They currently sit near the bottom. They have lost both of their games, and I do think they will lose this game against AS Monaco, where I think Monaco will win 2-0. Moving on to the next game, we have Arsenal against Shakhtar Donetsk. Arsenal haven't been particularly good so far this Champions League, but they have had a few very tough games. In the first match day, they versed Atalanta, who are the current winners of the Europa League, and they did finish that game in a 0-0 draw, which I thought that Atalanta should have actually won that game, so it was very good for Arsenal to come away with 1 point. And in the last match day against PSG, they did do very, very good. They ended up winning that game 2-0, which I thought was going to be a much tougher game for them. But in this game against Shakhtar, I think it will be very tough for Arsenal, because Shakhtar, especially in recent years, have been very, very underrated. And they are one of those teams that can definitely cause an upset here and there. With the home advantage, I think Arsenal will win this game 2-1. The next game we got is Aston Villa against Bologna. Bologna have been very, very poor this season, much worse than they were last season. And on the other hand, Aston Villa have been very, very good. In the Champions League, they've been very good. They have won both of their games, where they recently beat Bayern Munich 1-0. And even in the Premier League, they do currently sit near the top of the table. But for some reason in this game, even though Aston Villa have the home advantage, I feel like Bologna are going to come back. They've had a very poor spell of games, but I feel like they will come back in this game against Aston Villa, and I do think that Bologna will play very, very well in this game. I think both teams will score, but I think Aston Villa will fail to close out the game. I think Bologna may score a late equalizer, and I think the scoreline will be 1-1. The next game we got is Girona against Slovan Bratislava. Last season, we saw one of the craziest stories with Girona, where they went from being a fairly mid-table La Liga side to finishing near the top of the table, which was very, very unexpected. And obviously that is why they are currently in the Champions League. And Slovan Bratislava realistically are a team that we usually don't see in this competition, and so far in this Champions League campaign, they have been very, very poor. Now, it's not like Girona have been good in this Champions League campaign, because they have lost both of their first 2 games, but so did Slovan Bratislava, and they currently sit second last on the table with a -8 goal difference from their first 2 games. And with the home advantage playing in Spain, I do think Girona will pretty comfortably win this game. I'm going to say they win 3-0. The next game we got is Juventus against Stuttgart. Juventus have been very, very good this season, and with some of their new signings and playing under Thiago Motta, I think they look like a completely different team to how they looked last season. And so far in the Champions League, they have been one of the best teams so far. In the first match day, they did very, very good against PSV, where they ended up winning that game, scoring 3 goals. And in their last match day against RB Leipzig, they were down in that game. They were down to 10 men, and they still ended up coming back and winning that game. So in this game against Stuttgart, yes, Stuttgart are a good team, but I'm going to say that Juventus win this game 2-0. The next game we got is PSG against PSV. I think this game is going to be another upset. I think most people, probably 85% of people, would predict that PSG win this game. But in my opinion, they have been very, very underwhelming so far in this Champions League campaign. In the first match day, they barely won against Girona. It came down to the last minute. And in the last match day against Arsenal, they ended up losing 2-0, which was a pretty poor performance by PSG. And PSV, on the other hand, yes, they haven't been that good in this Champions League, but in the Eredivisie, they are first place and they're winning almost every single game they play. So for that reason, even though PSG have the home advantage, I'm going to predict a 1-1 draw. Moving on to the next game, we have Real Madrid against Dortmund. Dortmund currently sit first place in the Champions League phase. They have won both of their games and they have a goal difference of +9. They have already scored 10 goals in their first 2 games and they have only conceded 1 goal. They have been very, very good so far in this Champions League campaign. But against Real Madrid, this is a repeat of the Champions League final from last year. I don't think Dortmund will be able to win. I think this will be a very high scoring game. I think it will be probably the best match in the third match week. And I think Real Madrid will win this game 4-2. Moving on to the last match on Tuesday, we have Sturm Graz against Sporting. Sturm Graz haven't really been that good in this Champions League campaign so far. Sporting have been pretty good in this Champions League campaign. They did win their first game, and in their recent game, they did get a draw against PSV, which was still a pretty good result. Now, in the Portuguese league, Sporting have been absolutely incredible. They have already played 8 games, and they have won every single game they played, scoring loads and loads of goals. In their first 8 games, they already have 27 goals scored, and a lot of those goals are coming from Victor Gyökeres, who in my opinion is one of the most underrated strikers in the world. I think that Sporting will pretty comfortably win this game 3-0. Moving on to the Wednesday fixtures, the first game we got is Atalanta against Celtic. Atalanta have been very, very good in this Champions League, where in the first match day, they did end up getting a draw against Arsenal, which realistically, they should have won that game. But in the next match day against Shakhtar, they played very, very good. They scored 3 goals and they could have definitely scored more. Celtic, on the other hand, haven't been particularly good. In the first match day, they did beat Slovan Bratislava 5-1, which was a very, very good game. But in the second match day, they lost 7-1 against Borussia Dortmund, which was a horrible defeat. In this game, Atalanta are playing at home, and with the home advantage, I think this will be a pretty comfortable win for them. I'm going to predict that they win 3-1. The next game we got is Brest against Bayer Leverkusen. Brest are a good team, and so far in this Champions League, they haven't been as bad as I thought, and they're actually performing pretty good. And even in the Ligue 1, they are doing pretty good this season. But Bayer Leverkusen are, in my opinion, probably a top 5 team in the world, and they are one of the most entertaining teams to watch. They score loads and loads of goals. It is crazy how many goals Bayer Leverkusen score every single game. With that being said, I don't think the home advantage will affect them too much. I think Bayer Leverkusen will win this game 4-1. The next game we got is Atletico Madrid against Lille. I thought that Atletico Madrid were going to have a standout season. I thought that they had a good chance of winning the La Liga, and they would also perform very well in the Champions League. But so far, it's fair to say that they have been very, very underwhelming. They have made so many incredible signings this summer, but they haven't really been able to make it work. And so far, it hasn't been very good for them. Where on the other hand, Lille haven't had the most convincing Champions League so far, but they have pulled off with a couple of good results. And in the recent game against Real Madrid, they did win that game. So for that reason, even though Atletico Madrid do have the home advantage, I think this game will end in a 1-1 draw. Moving on to the next match, we have Barcelona against Bayern Munich. This is arguably the most anticipated matchup in the third match day, and obviously both of these teams have incredible history of playing against each other. But if we look at this season so far, Barcelona have been very, very good in their domestic league. Bayern Munich have also been very, very good in the domestic league. But in the Champions League, both of these teams have suffered unexpected defeats, where Bayern Munich ended up losing against Aston Villa and Barcelona in the first match they lost against AS Monaco. But in my opinion, I do think with the home advantage, Barcelona will win this game. Bayern Munich have been a little bit inconsistent within their recent matches, both domestically and in the Champions League, where Barcelona have been much better in recent weeks. And for that reason, I think this will be a very high scoring game, but I think Barcelona will just edge it, and I think they're going to win this game 3-2. The next game we got is Benfica against Feyenoord. Benfica didn't really have the best start to the season, but in recent weeks, they have been playing much better. Where on the other hand, Feyenoord haven't really been performing that great in the Eredivisie. They are a little bit inconsistent and they currently sit around 5th or 6th place on the table. I think this game will be very close, but with the home advantage, I think Benfica will just edge it and I think they're going to win this game 2-1. The next game we got is Manchester City against Sparta Prague. This is one of those games where Manchester City will score multiple goals and they win by a crazy amount. It's just guaranteed to happen. I think Man City will win this game 4-1. The next game we got is RB Leipzig against Liverpool. Liverpool have been much better than I expected them to be this season because with Arne Slot, I didn't know if he was going to transition that well into the club. But clearly, he has been performing very well and his team has been performing incredibly. But in this game against RB Leipzig, I feel like Liverpool might slip up. RB Leipzig, yes, they haven't had the best Champions League campaign so far and they have lost in both of their first 2 games. But I actually think they're going to come back in this game and I think they will end up with a draw out of this game. I think it will be a very good result for them and I think the scoreline will be 1-1. Moving on to the next match, we have Salzburg against Dinamo Zagreb. Dinamo Zagreb suffered the worst defeat so far in this Champions League, where they lost 9-2 against Bayern Munich. But in the next game after that, they did very well against Monaco to finish with a draw. Salzburg have not been particularly good in this Champions League, and to be honest, I expected better from them. So for that reason, yes, they do have the home advantage, but I think Dinamo Zagreb will be able to get another point from this game, and I think it will end in a 1-1 draw. And finally, the last game we have is Young Boys against Inter Milan. We've seen Young Boys in recent years pull off with some incredible results in these UEFA competitions, but so far in this Champions League, they currently sit dead last. Whereas Inter Milan started off the Champions League campaign with a draw against Manchester City, which is obviously a very good result. And in the game after that, they ended up beating Red Star Belgrade 4-0, which was a very impressive game. I think that Inter Milan will pretty easily win this game. Even though they are playing away, I think Inter Milan will win 4-2. And that is the end of my Champions League predictions for the 3rd match day in the UCL League phase. If you guys agree with my predictions, remember to leave a comment down below. But obviously, if you disagree with my predictions and you think there might be a few upsets here and there that I failed to mention, again, remember to leave your predictions in the comments down below. And obviously, I'll be sure to reply to every single comment. If you guys have been enjoying these Champions League prediction videos and you are excited to see them for the rest of the season, remember to leave a like on this video. And obviously, if you did enjoy this video here, remember to leave a like, comment, subscribe, all that good stuff, and stay tuned for more videos.